Imagine a place surrounded by walls, where decisions made in silence can echo for centuries. A small territory, almost invisible on the map, but with enough power to influence governments, overthrow kings, and shape the destiny of millions of people. Behind the golden domes and Renaissance works of art, there is another Vatican, a world of secrets, intrigues, and mysteries that few know about. Stories of unsolved disappearances, financial scandals that have shaken many people's faith, and secret organizations that operate in the shadows. We're talking about the smallest country in the world, but at the same time one of the most influential and powerful in history. In this video, you'll discover the dark side of the Vatican, a place where faith and power mix, and where not everything is as it seems. Number 1. Location and geographical data. The Vatican is officially the smallest country in the world. With only 0.16 square miles of area, it would fit almost 8 times inside Central Park. Located in the heart of Rome, it is a veritable island within Italy, separated from the rest of the city by walls that delimit its borders. Despite its global importance, the Vatican has a resident population of just over 800 people, not all of whom have Vatican citizenship. In fact, citizenship here is not a birthright, but is granted exclusively to those who hold official positions within the state. Its streets can be counted on the fingers. There are only a few internal roads, such as the famous Via della Posta and Via del Pellegrino, which connect administrative buildings, museums, and of course the imposing St. Peter's Square. But what few people know is that the walls surrounding the Vatican have a curious history, and that's what we're going to talk about now. Number 2. A completely walled country. The Vatican's history begins long before it was recognized as a country. For centuries, the area where St. Peter's Square is today was considered sacred because it supposedly housed the tomb of the Apostle Peter. But it wasn't until the 4th century, with the construction of St. Peter's Basilica by Emperor Constantine, that the place gained political importance. Over the years, the popes came to rule over vast areas of the Italian peninsula, known as the Papal States. This domination lasted almost 1,000 years, until the 19th century, when the Italian unification movement took over much of these lands. In 1870, Rome was incorporated into the new Kingdom of Italy, and Pope Pius IX declared himself a prisoner within the walls of the Vatican. It wasn't until 1929, with the Lateran Treaty, that the Vatican officially became an independent state, a tiny territory surrounded by high stone walls. And it's no exaggeration to say that it's the only walled country in the world. But these walls don't just serve to demarcate a geographical boundary. They also protect something much more valuable: secrets that, to this day, remain under lock and key. And that's exactly where some of the most intriguing stories begin. Number 3. The disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi. It was supposed to be a day like any other. On June 22, 1983, Emanuela Orlandi, a 15-year-old teenager, left home to attend a music lesson in Rome. The daughter of a Vatican official, she lived with her family within the walls of the city-state. But that afternoon, Emanuela simply disappeared. And what seemed like an ordinary case of disappearance soon turned into one of the greatest mysteries in recent history. The first clues led nowhere. Before long, theories began to emerge that bordered on the unbelievable. Some said that she had been kidnapped to press for the release of Mehmet Ali Agca, the man who tried to assassinate Pope John Paul II. Others pointed to her involvement with the Italian mafia and even financial scandals linked to the Vatican Bank. Decades have passed, and to this day Emanuela's whereabouts are a mystery. No body has been found, no conclusive evidence has emerged, and the silence of the Vatican authorities has only increased suspicions of a possible cover-up. But anyone who thinks this is an isolated case is mistaken. The internal disputes over control of the Vatican reveal an even more complex power game. Number 4. The struggle for power. Behind the solemn ceremonies and the appearance of unity, the Vatican is the scene of internal disputes that span centuries. Fights over influence, ideological rivalries, and silent battles for control of the Church have already defined the choice of popes and even the fate of entire nations. Documents revealed in the book His Holiness, The Secret Letters of Benedict XVI by journalists Gianluigi Nuzzi and Emiliano Fittipaldi show how Benedict XVI faced constant pressure and betrayal from within the Roman Curia itself. The German Pope found himself isolated, weakened, and without enough support to contain the dispute between conservative and progressive groups. According to experts, this wear and tear was one of the main reasons for his historic resignation in 2013, something that had not happened for over 600 years. Decades earlier, in 1978, another episode exposed these internal struggles. Pope John Paul I died suddenly, just 33 days after assuming the pontificate. Journalist David Yallop, in his book In the Name of God, argues that Albino Luciani was poisoned for trying to tackle corruption in the Vatican Bank and dismantle power networks that involved members of the high hierarchy. Among them were clerics linked to the Masonic Lodge P2, one of the most influential and controversial groups of the time, investigated for bribery scandals and political manipulation in Italy. The Vatican has never been a place of consensus, and the greater the dispute for power, the greater the risk that the backstage will become the scene of even deeper scandals, as we're about to see. Number 5. Corruption scandals. The Institute for Works of Religion, better known as the Vatican Bank, was created in 1942 to manage funds for religious and charitable activities. But over time, it ended up at the center of some of the biggest financial scandals of the 21st century. One of the most emblematic cases began in the 70s, with the Institute's involvement in the collapse of Banco Ambrosiano. At the time, the bank's president, Roberto Calvi, known as God's banker, had a close relationship with the Vatican. The Institute for Works of Religion was a shareholder, and Ambrosiano's main partner in operations involving billions of dollars. In 1982, the bank went bankrupt, leaving a shortfall of more than $1.3 billion. A few days later, Calvi was found dead, hanged under Blackfriars Bridge in London. His death was initially treated as a suicide, but later investigations led to the suspicion of murder. It was at this time that the scandal exposed dangerous links with the Masonic Lodge P2, led by Licio Gelli, and with the Italian Mafia. The then president of the Vatican Bank, Paul Marcinkus, was accused of involvement in the case, but was never tried by Italian justice, protected by Vatican diplomatic immunity. Marcinkus, however, was removed from office in 1989. Years later, new scandals came to light. In 2010, Ettore Gotti Tedeschi, president of the Vatican Bank, was investigated for money laundering. He was removed in 2012 amid allegations of management irregularities and internal pressure. The suspicions included the movement of millions of euros in secret accounts, used by clerics and businessmen to circumvent international tax controls. In recent years, the Vatican has tried to adopt transparency measures, but the damage to the Vatican Bank's image is profound. The past weighs heavily, and distrust remains. And it's not just money that circulates in the shadows of the Vatican. There are confidential documents, letters, and information that, when leaked, show an even darker side of the Holy See. Number 6. Vatalaks. In 2012, the Vatican faced one of the biggest leaks of confidential documents in its history, known as Vatalaks. For months, secret letters, memos, and reports circulated in the press, revealing a scenario of corruption, influence peddling, and infighting at the heart of the Holy See. The leaked documents showed embezzlement, favoritism in million-dollar contracts, and even allegations of threats and blackmail within the Roman Curia. The epicenter of the scandal was Benedict XVI's personal butler, Paolo Gabriele. He was accused of stealing documents directly from the papal apartment and giving them to the press, claiming to be acting out of love for the Church. The internal investigation, conducted by a commission of cardinals, revealed a network of power struggles that further eroded Benedict's pontificate. Shortly afterwards, in the year 2013, the Pope resigned, a fact that many associate directly with the impact of the scandal. 3 years later, in 2015, the Vatican experienced a new wave of leaks, called Vatalaks II. This time, the documents revealed the misuse of charitable funds, personal luxuries financed by donations from the faithful, and less than transparent dealings with outside companies. Among those involved was Monsignor Lucio Vallejo Balda, who handed over information to Italian journalists in exchange for personal benefits. The revelations showed cardinals living in millionaire apartments, excessive spending on parties and renovations, as well as overpriced contracts that benefited companies close to the ecclesiastical summit. Revelations like Vatalaks have shown that even the highest walls are not enough. That's why the Vatican resorts to less visible but extremely efficient methods to try to protect its secrets. Number 7. The Vatican's Secret Service. Officially, the Vatican has never had a secret service, but throughout history, the Holy See has always had an efficient intelligence network. It doesn't appear in any official documents, but it has functioned as an intelligence service for centuries, discreet and effective. During the Middle Ages, agents in the service of the popes collected information on kings, nobles, and possible threats to the Church's authority. At the time of the Inquisition, the network spread throughout Europe. Clerics and inquisitors acted as real spies, identifying heretics and movements that could shake the structure of papal power. In the 19th century, after Italian unification and the loss of the Papal States, the Vatican intensified its secret operations. The apostolic nuncios, representatives of the Holy See in other countries, didn't just act as diplomats. Many were tasked with gathering strategic information and passing it on directly to the Pope. Already in the 20th century, during the 2 World Wars, this network showed its strength. In the First World War, Pope Benedict maintained direct contact with leaders on both sides of the conflict, using his diplomatic service as a channel for real-time information. In the Second World War, Pius XIII used these connections to obtain secret reports on the Nazi advance and the Holocaust. Documents reveal that he was informed of the mass deportations of Jews months before the international press. In addition, the Holy See allegedly acted secretly in helping Jewish refugees and opponents of the Nazi regime through the so-called monasteries route. Priests and bishops hid the politically persecuted, often with the knowledge and coordination of the Vatican itself. Another name that comes up is that of Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty, known as the Scarlet, who led a clandestine network that saved around 6,000 people in Rome during the German occupation. Throughout the 20th century, during the Cold War, the Vatican was also accused of collaborating with Western intelligence services, especially the CIA. The aim was to contain the influence of communism in Europe and protect the interests of the Catholic Church in Eastern European countries. Today, there is no official agency, but the tradition remains. After all, those who keep so many secrets need to know exactly who they are dealing with. And when it comes to security within the Vatican walls, there's another name that can't be ignored: the Swiss Guard. Number 8. The Pope's Protectors. The Swiss Guard has been directly responsible for the Pope's security for over 500 years. Founded in 1506 by Pope Julius II, it came into being at a time when Swiss mercenaries were considered the most loyal and well-trained soldiers in Europe. The most emblematic episode of this loyalty took place in 1527 during the sack of Rome. On that occasion, 147 Swiss guards died protecting Pope Clement VII, ensuring his escape to Castel Sant'Angelo. Today, the Swiss Guard numbers around 135 men. They are all Swiss citizens, Catholics, single and with compulsory military experience in the Swiss army. Despite the traditional uniform inspired by the Renaissance, the training is modern. It includes self-defense, security tactics, and the use of firearms. They not only protect the Pope during his public appearances and trips, but also control access to the Vatican and ensure the security of official events. But even with all this protection, it's not always possible to prevent church resources from being used for purposes far removed from charity. And one of the most controversial cases in recent years involves the purchase of a $1 million building in London. Number 9. Luxury bought with charity money. In 2020, the Vatican found itself at the center of yet another financial scandal. This time, it involved the purchase of a luxury building in London's Chelsea district. The property, valued at around €350 million, was purchased with funds that, in theory, should have been earmarked for charity. The money came from St. Peter's Abbey, a fund fed by donations from the faithful around the world. The expectation was that these funds would be used for humanitarian aid and social projects. However, part of the money was diverted to high-risk investments in the real estate market. Cardinal Giovanni Angelo Becciu, at the time responsible for the administration of the Secretariat of State, was named as one of the main organizers of the deal. He ended up resigning after the accusation came to light, although he denies any illegal involvement. The investigations revealed a complex corruption scheme involving businessmen, financial consultants, and members of the top Vatican hierarchy. Overpriced contracts and suspicious commissions raised doubts about the control and transparency in the management of money donated by the faithful. The case exposed a harsh reality. Even the most well-intentioned donations can feed hidden interests within the Vatican walls. And where there is influence and power, there are also those who seek to control it, like the controversial Opus Dei. Number 10. The influence of Opus Dei. Founded in 1928 by the Spanish priest José María Escrivá, Opus Dei was created with the aim of bringing holiness closer to everyday life. According to the official discourse, its members seek to live their faith at work, in the family, and in society. But behind this devout image, the organization is often accused of acting as a powerful network of political and economic influence inside and outside the Vatican. Opus Dei gained strength during the papacy of John Paul II, who canonized Escrivá in record time. Since then, the institution has established itself as one of the most influential groups in the Roman Curia. Many of its members hold strategic positions in the Holy See's financial administration and doctrinal commissions. Critics accuse Opus Dei of operating as a kind of parallel church, with its own rules and priorities, often at odds with other currents within Catholicism. Its links with conservative politicians and billionaire businessmen reinforce the image of an organization that seeks to shape papal decisions and influence the direction of the Church. Officially, Opus Dei is a personal prelature answering directly to the Pope, but its power often seems to go beyond what appears in official documents. And when it comes to closely guarded secrets, few are as mysterious as those locked away in the Vatican's secret library. Number 11. The Secret Library of the Vatican. At the heart of the Vatican is a place that has fascinated and mysterious people for centuries: the Vatican Apostolic Library. Officially, it's not called the Secret Library, but the term has become popular due to the restricted access and content stored there. Founded in 1475, the library houses more than 80,000 manuscripts and documents covering almost 2,000 years of church and human history. Among the most valuable items are documents from the Roman Empire, Michelangelo's letters, Galileo's scientific treatises, and records of the trials of the Inquisition. But what most excites the imagination of scholars and the curious are the volumes that have never been shown to the public. There is speculation that they contain archives on heretical sects, apocryphal texts recounting the life of Jesus, and even records of secret meetings with heads of state. Access to the so-called reserved section is limited to a few accredited researchers, and even then under strict conditions. It is not permitted to photograph, copy, or disseminate the contents without the express authorization of the Holy See. The Vatican's secret library remains a symbol of power and control over knowledge, a reminder that not everything is within sight. And if you like exploring the mysteries of the world, you already know. Subscribe to Bello Mundo and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos, because some stories deserve to be told. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on our next adventure.